Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of BrentoCast. I believe it's episode 26. I hope you're all doing well and staying safe. I just wanted to give you all an update on what's been going on in my world. So, as many of you know, I've begun working on my new album, Southern Lane, and I've been recording the songs at Snug Records with my main man and musical cohort and collaborator, Harrison Andrew Foreman. Let me tell you, it's been a wild ride. We've been walking around, acting like rock stars in the studio, like time doesn't matter. No, it's just the opposite, actually. We have been on the clock and really being prepared for everything that we have recorded. For the most part, we're recording songs we've been performing out live for about a year and some months now, so we are putting songs down in a record time. Typically, we'll get most of 2 songs finished inside of a 4-hour session, 4 to 5 hour session, and then finish something else off on one of the ones previously recorded. So it's pretty great. The recording process has just been a blast so far. And Harrison is really a pleasure to work with. He's like my secret weapon. But really, all these songs are truly Bowers Foreman. They are real collaborations written by both of us. So it's awesome. What else? It's been kind of a sad week in the world at large. Losing first a real patriot, Diamond of Diamond and Silk, Lynette, passed away unexpectedly at age 52, I believe. Wow, what a loss to the conservative and patriotic community. Wow, bummer. And then none other than one of the greatest guitar players in the world, Jeff Beck, unexpectedly catching bacterial meningitis and passing away. Of course, he was quite elderly, but still, you just don't expect these icons of music to be going as quickly as they seem to be. So really sad to hear about that. And then last but not least, of course, the daughter of the king of rock and roll himself, Lisa Marie, passing away just a few days ago. Way too young. So very, very sad. But, onward and upward, we have to keep moving forward because it's the only direction we can move in, right? Because time travel abhors a vacuum. I just wanted to kind of get back in here. It's been a hot minute since I've given you guys an update, and a lot's been going on. Obviously, you guys heard about the tragic loss of my dear buddy, Bill Herman, which I shared in the last podcast, and just how hard that had hit me because of the circumstances around it and the fact that we had just recently reconnected. And I wasn't really sure how to take it all. Bill, not so much as part of my time knowing him, but he went through some rehabs. He had over 20 surgeries in his lifetime, and during one or maybe one or more of the rehabs, he and his sister Patty created a bunch of giant puppets, small puppets with armatures, all kinds of puppetry. And the quality of stuff is surprisingly good. It looks like something that would not look out of place on Sesame Street. And unfortunately, with most of his family either being estranged or, not interested, his artworks have kind of come to a place where they really were not able to even give them away to a reasonable home that would take care of them and rehouse them and whatnot, let alone do anything with them. So Patty connected with me about coming up to Bill's house in Ohio and getting these pieces of art that they created together, and at the very least storing them and perhaps even doing some sort of a little puppet show in tribute to Bill. And I was with it. I really felt in my heart that was something I wanted to do, particularly given the quality of them. And just it's too nice to see something like that just thrown in a landfill. I just couldn't stomach the idea of it. So looks like in a couple of weeks here, maybe second or third week of February, I will be taking off up to Ohio to visit Bill's former home, which I've never been to or seen, and get a little bit of a peek into what his life up there was like, and then I'll haul these things back. And I believe my other best buddy from high school, Todd A. Britt, will be going with me, and that'll be a fun road trip. I haven't done anything with Todd basically since the breakdown of Mutantville Productions, really. No any real project with him, so it'll be fun to hang out with him for a couple of days and get a little road trip in there. But that is the plan, and of course I will cover it on the podcast, as you know. Now, as per normal, at least 30 minutes of videos going up for me every week on BrentBowers.com. You can always check that out. We had an epic Christmas, which I think I mentioned a little bit in the last podcast, so definitely go over and check that out. But you can just check that podcast out for more details on the Christmas stuff, or just, pop over to the site. And I do periodically update my my vlog page with the latest videos in sequence, but I may not always be at the latest one, so you can always pop over to my channel and see what the latest thing I uploaded is. Typically, it'll be in 2 to 3 parts because sometimes I go beyond that easy watch limit. And although I will say we have gotten Google Fiber here now, and uploading videos is an absolute breeze. It's unbelievable how fast my upload speeds are. So I am really in a mode of ripping all my old VHS and backing them up again. And now there's a tool that I'm using called Topaz Video AI, which allows me to update some of these videos and clean them up, the ones that really matter to me. I will say it's time consuming, and I have to leave my computer alone overnight to do it, so I don't always do it, but I have pulled them and made certain that I have the original, the best I can get it off the VHS, uploaded to my GoPro account so that I have the full resolution to work on at a later time if I ever deem that's something I want to do. Now, the first 2 weeks of this year, as I might have mentioned, were supposed to be dedicated to my training in Blender. I got through exactly 1.5 videos before folks that were supposed to be observing my training time started asking me to do stuff. So the training did not happen. Part of that's my fault for not being a little more shrewd with saying, nope, can't do it. But a lot of it's Nancy's, because as per usual, she scheduled me massages for days I wasn't supposed to be doing them. Oh, somebody comes in. She's a real sucker for this. I'm dying. I'm like, well, if you were dying, you could have showed up at your last appointment. If your back's hurting you that bad. And that's where I kind of run into a little consternation. I mean, this morning I had a 20-minute massage. No big deal, but it did break up my time working this morning, which I'm prepping for studio tomorrow, because I'm having my first session with a new backup singer, and I really wanted to have everything printed out and have all my notes. So doing all that this morning, making sure I don't just have the lyrics, but I have the precise lyrics that I sang on each of the 4 songs that we're working on. And hopefully this will open me up to being able to have more kind of a soulful backup session that's not always just male backing vocals. So, that is a thing that I'm paying somebody's time for, so I want to make sure that I'm ready when I walk in there. But I digress. The world of AI is really changing things, and it's made me dig out some old stories and work on formatting some of the things that I never turned into films that I'd like to at least tell those stories. And I'm looking toward, I have an eye toward writing a novel or 2, maybe, short stories, but all kind of horror related, something that you would have seen coming from Mutantville Productions as a horror film, turning a lot of that stuff, the stuff that I think is really good. Like I did write a follow-up feature-length script to my short film Buddy Road, which was very well received, the film itself. So, why would it not be something that I could expand into a Scooby-Doo mystery? I don't see any reason. So I have started converting that into I had a full-length script, so I'm starting converting that into a dramatic novel format. Of course, it requires you to rewrite, because generally in a script, you don't want to be too descriptive. As long as the people involved know what's going on, you can bloat out your script pages, and then you get out there and you actually shoot, and you realize you had 60 pages, but you only have like 20 minutes of on screen. So it's just the opposite with dramatization. You want to really paint the picture, really gild the lily, so to speak, and that's what I've started doing. Converting these over and using ChatGPT, and then I purchased a tool called Word Hero. If you're a writer, it really helps with formatting and alternatives to the way you write things. So it's a great tool. You should check it out. But ChatGPT is where that all started, and that's a free tool. But now everybody's kind of turned on to it. It's really great for writing quick blog posts and marketing blurbs. It's really, really great for that. More long-form stuff, it's a little problematic. It's difficult to use because it's limited in input and output. So I wouldn't recommend it for writing novels, but for certainly writing a blog post, yes, I definitely have used it. I actually used it to write the intro to this podcast today. Of course, I have to change that myself. It's not like it just spits it out complete. That's not the way it works. But I definitely I recommend you guys looking into the AI. I'm kind of at the point with the AI art that it's so good, but the limitations I've seen other people work around, I've not been able to get it to work the way that I want. And one of those subscriptions in particular, midjourney.com, I've been paying $30 a month for. And I think what I'm going to do is just cancel that and just wait for that tool to kind of catch up and get as good as it's going to be, and which I think will probably be within the next 6 months. So, yeah, I don't want to spend too much time down in the trenches while people are having to basically beta test this stuff for them. I don't have the time for that, unfortunately. But, yeah, staying really busy with Delilah. She has gymnastics today at 3:30, for example. I have so much stuff I have to get to do before I go pick her up. And then, tomorrow I'm off to studio time. So it's a pretty typical busy week. Not that I'm not enjoying it, I definitely am. I have gotten pretty deep into a graphic novel, just for fun, kind of a graphic novel, Lovecraftian themed, about a detective that gets an amulet mailed to him by a mystery client, and it's called The Secret Factory, and it's basically asking him to investigate a factory that seems to be in the rural countryside of New England, but is very hard to find at times. And it's an enormous facility that's ostensibly just got machinery running in it, but there's nobody there. It's just completely empty. And he finds something rather unexpected there, to say the least. And his client turns out to be someone that's really, really unexpected to hear from. So it's kind of a noir, not black and white per se, but just kind of a grainy, grungy look that I'm rendering it with. And I like this one artist on Renderosity called Dreamland Models. He makes these really ginormous sets, some of it going back to the 30s, some of it modern day, some of it, somewhere in between. But he uses a, what is the word for it? Billboard methodology, I would say. In other words, instead of putting like 1,000 polygonal trees, he'll just have these really convincing billboards placed and set up to render. And you render it in iRay, and it looks like you have this incredibly dense forest, but really it's just not very much geometry. So it's his sets can tend to be really, really, really oversized, like ginormous. I don't mean that they're not scaled properly. They're scaled properly, just way bigger than you would be able to get into your scene if it were, using real geometry like most of the artists out there do. So his stuff has a different look, and I'm really a fan of it. So I got all of his neighborhood sets with all these different kinds of houses, and this giant industrial warehouse set's the main thing that I'm using for my comic. But I wish I could share that with you on this podcast because it's really cool looking, and I've started uploading pieces of arts, and I've started pieces of art made for the story, and I've started assembling the story in Comic Life 3. So ultimately, it'll look like comic pages when I post the final, which I guess will be a PDF I'll share somewhere. But it's based. The main character, his name is Bill, and it's based on a character which is on the Genesis 9 chassis, or base figure in Dad's studio, if you're into that sort of thing. And but I got the shape of the character from a character morph that Les Garner made for me of my dad back in an earlier generation. So it doesn't have the textures that look like him, but it's just the face shape that Les came up with, sort of matching him, and probably from photos taken maybe, 15 years ago. And so it's always cool to include. My brother really doesn't like it when I do this, but really I don't do it for him, I do it for me. But I really like to include my dad's imagery, or at least a character that reminds me of him or whatever. And of course the character being called Bill, that's what most people knew him as. His name was William Lloyd Bowers, but most folks called him Bill, short for William, I guess. And I actually had a dream about him last night in his final moments, that I was actually there with him, which I was not, unfortunately. And just how going from life to death, you're still your spirit's still there. You're just not in the same package, and you're not, you don't have the same confines of this mortal coil, this is all just me and the way I feel about it. I mean, obviously you can't prove it, but that's where faith comes in, right? But yeah, I do think about my dad and dream about my dad a lot, and I love to incorporate him. It just makes my heart feel good when I incorporate him in my music, and when I incorporate him in my art. I did mention that I have got a song which I wrote for Bill, and I shared like it's just a little bit of the rough phone demo. I'm going to share just a little bit of the track In Progress, because we've fleshed it out, and it's very, very different from what you heard in that starting demo. And eventually I will share the full version when it's available, but we're still working it out. Actually, tomorrow it's getting backing vocals from a girl singer, she's really awesome, so that should really change it. But I'm going to share a little bit of that with you so that you can just get a taste for where it's going. Cinema wise, I guess the thing I most recently finished on Netflix was a show called Brand New Cherry Flavor. I have mixed feelings about this show. The characters, most all the characters were just these well, sorry about that. These hedonistic type young people in LA. The main character, awfully unlikable, but I almost feel like that was designed. I mean, she's still like chain smoking in this classic car. And even though I love classic cars, I absolutely hate tobacco, but just because I so viscerally associate the stink that comes with it. And I don't like characters that smoke, because it's just they're taking, if they're a good looking person in particular, they're taking that just completely for granted and just poisoning themselves. I mean, and it destroys the looks of any women particularly who do it. And it's just bad for everybody. And I absolutely just hate it. I view it as like just big money selling off lives for cash. That's my view, right or wrong. That's my view of the tobacco industry. So I absolutely hate to see it. And this show was full of it, man. They took a kind of the main actress, which I'm not going to call names here, but the main protagonist, if you will, was kind of a creepy looking girl anyway. And I don't think that's something that they did makeup to get. I think that's just that she just has that look, that sort of in between, not super beautiful, not unattractive, but just moody, broody look. And of course, they just, her character is just so trashy. She just basically uses people up and leaves the smoldering husk behind, just like a cigarette butt. That's pretty much what this character does. So I guess that was kind of part of the character arc, which she really never escapes, to be honest with you. And I don't want to spoil it, but I will say that if you like disturbing body horror, it's a well-made series. The antagonist, which there's a couple of them, but the male antagonist was a brilliant actor, I thought, which is probably what kept me, just to seeing what he would do next, is probably what kept me watching it. But this film has, it is supernatural, but it's not necessarily a zombie movie, even though it has zombies in it. It's not a vampire movie, but there are elements of that, consumption of blood and whatnot. It's not exactly a witch movie, but there are elements of that. So yeah, it kind of makes me want to read the book, to be honest with you. But it was really disturbing. I almost wish I hadn't watched it, but here I am talking about it. So who knows? I mean, I guess it entertained me on some level. Brand New Cherry Flavor on Netflix right now. Now, the other show that I'm really absolutely loving is Tulsa King, starring and I believe produced by Sylvester Stallone. That guy knows how to tell a story, man. I just like almost everything he does, man. I tell you, I think I just finished season 1, and I sure hope there's a second season, because it's awesome. The premise is a guy took a fall for the mob he was in, didn't squeal on anybody, spent 20 years in prison or whatever, and he gets out and goes back to the family expecting to get his reward for being loyal, and instead they go, yeah, we're going to give you Tulsa. They didn't have anything in Tulsa. They just wanted him to go to Tulsa and earn and kick up money to them, and which he does. But of course, they didn't really deserve any of that money, because they didn't do good by the guy. They just sent him out the door with, what he had when he went into prison. So. And then, of course, it comes to, the kind of conflict you can imagine. And, he encounters some bikers, I guess neo-Nazi type bikers, and builds his own little crew. And it's interesting. He's got a guy that's one of his partners in there that looks a whole lot like Cowboy Cerrone, but It's not Donald Cerrone. It's just another actor that happens to look like him. But a cool kind of tall drink of water sort of character. That guy that looks like Donald Cerrone, I probably should have his name, but I don't. Check it out, Tulsa King. It's on Paramount. You can get Paramount through Prime. And I find it to be a little cheaper sometimes to just buy everything, your subscriptions through Prime. So I've been watching that. Been watching the new prequel to Yellowstone. Freaking awesome. I'm behind a few episodes on Yellowstone. I got to catch that up. But that prequel stars Harrison Ford and I forget the lady's name. It's not coming to me right now. But a really fine cast in that as well. Delilah's doing great. She just officially turned 3.5, 2 days ago. So it's going great, and I'm enjoying making her movies. And the music's going great. Everything's going great. What can I say? Other than we're losing all these cherished celebrities and artists, that's not so great. But, I mean, it is the way of the world. You know, it is we come, we go. And all we leave behind is the kindness or goodness that we create. Hope you guys have a great week.
When I learned that you were gone, as I hadn't heard from you in more than a year. To put it way too lightly, my friend, they'd done you wrong. And I cried for you more than one tear. Southern boy, come home. That ain't where you belong. Well, they say you took your truck and you drove it to California. See that golden coast for just one time. As the sun was sinking down and that ocean lay